My friend Leilani has what is in our area and maybe in our time a big family. She and her husband have 4 children, and they also support her parents. And more often than not, they have an au pair living in their home, and so that person, while not a family member, is part of their household. The resources needed to support Leilani's home are numerous, and she also has numerous fruit trees in her yard. Specifically, right in her front yard, she has 2 peach trees. Just a few blocks from Medford Square, a city center not unlike ours here in Beverly, she grows peaches. When I was growing up, I didn't even know peaches grew in New England. But Leilani grows them. She grows a lot of peaches. She grows far more peaches than 9 people can reasonably consume, even once you have canned and jellied and frozen plenty to carry you through the winter. And so each August, a message goes out. Come pick some peaches. There are no other guidelines. Take what you need. Approach the peaches assuming abundance for all. That is, if you take what you know you will use, there will be peaches enough for us all. Some neighbors stop by and fill a bowl with plans for jam. Some neighbors take just one, a quick snack as they are passing by. I take a handful, enough to enjoy the days of fresh peaches with no worries that they might spoil before I can finish them off. Because unlike the song taught me in my adolescence, I don't actually want peaches to come from a can. So this peach tree has taken in what the world offers it. Nutrients from the soil, the sun and the rain, the transfer of materials from pollinators, mostly bees. The peach tree gives of itself freely, an overabundance of fruit doled out annually, sweetness and nutrients we humans, but also the birds and the squirrels, gladly receive. I went to Robin Wall Kimmerer's work for 2 reasons this week. The first is found in the subtitle of her book, Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural World. That citizen society we have spent 2 weeks exploring bring abundance and reciprocity to the forefront of my mind. These are core to a citizen society. We need to approach one another and our community without fear, with wonder and with openness, with an expectation of abundance. But I'll admit also that I went to Kimmerer's work because Indigenous Peoples Day reminds me, as it does many of us, to welcome the teachings of Indigenous leaders that are offered for us all. Kimmerer blends her education as a botanist and her Potawatomi culture to bring us poetic writings, both practical and spiritually nourishing. In drawing lessons from the serviceberry, Kimmerer gives us a teacher that is native to our area. This bush belongs here. It comes from here, in Massachusetts. And so its lessons come from our own backyard. And if you're here thinking, I know a lot about local plants, and I'm not familiar with the serviceberry. It has so many names. Go ahead and look it up later. You are very likely to come across a name that you recognize. And with that, you will think, oh yeah, I know that shrub. One of the most important frames Kimmerer offers us is an understanding of the reciprocity the serviceberry engages. It is not the sort of exchange we might think of most naturally. I do something for you, and sometime later, you'll get me back. Instead, it is the pay-it-forward sort of reciprocity, a pattern that creates and upholds a cycle that continues in perpetuity. When we think of paying it forward rather than paying it back, we open ourselves as individuals and community to always being receiving and giving, with none of the keeping score that is so common in our wider world. We can find a theological invitation to abundance and reciprocity in our Unitarian Universalist values. A generosity grounded in love must assume abundance. And if we're to bring a disrupt church lens to this, we can start with some truths that seem to conflict with our assumption of abundance. Our resources are not unlimited, right? We have a responsibility to our budget and to honoring the way we all need to balance our time. Here, abundance and generosity is found in our creativity and our curiosity. How might we take an idea and invite one another into new thinking? Well, here's a very concrete way we can see the strengths in our different gifts, right? So I'm going to ask a question and just ask for some raised hands. Who in this room is a big ideas person? That is, who considers themselves good at imagining the end point, can think of a big concept like, for example, we should put in an elevator to make our whole building accessible. Is that you? There isn't a right or wrong answer. It's sort of just thinking like, what is most natural to you? Keep those hands up for a moment, if that's you. So look around at each other with those hands up. We've noted a whole bunch of people who are some big ideas people. I'm not going to ask you for specific big ideas. You're not in trouble. Okay, go ahead and put your hands down. Now, who in this room is gifted with details? You probably aren't going to think about the big idea, but you know how to plan and carry out part, if not all, of the process. Go ahead and put those hands up and hold them. Look around at the folks around you. All right, go ahead and put your hands down. Some of you might even find yourselves in the middle, right? You might have been like, oh, I'm not sure that I fall into either one of those two categories. But these two different things and the spectrum of varying strengths in between the two extreme ends, this is some of the generosity you bring to disrupting church. We need our differing gifts to disrupt our easy patterns and invite something beautiful to grow fruit. So here's how that can work. Here's a practical application. I learned about another project in other churches a few years back, and I have wanted to introduce it here. Things keep getting in my way. Not a details person. Working on it, building strength always, not my natural inclination. So more precisely, one thing has been getting in my way. This concept works best online so that anyone in our wider church community can access it at any time. And I have been unable to find a tool that I like that meets our needs. So we're going to try it in person, and I'm going to keep looking for that tool. Here is the idea, and I teased it last week if you were here. Imagine the headline of a bulletin board. You don't even have to imagine, it's right behind you. That says, "I wish someone would." And below that heading, and here is where you have to actually imagine right now. Below that heading are notes scattered around the bulletin board. They say things like, "Start a group to write and share poetry. Create new materials to dress our altar. Gather a casual singing group. Organize an outing to go see Scott Gorman's plays or our youth's sporting events. Or start a UU Dungeons and Dragons game at our church." It happens a lot of places. If that's your thing, put it on the board. We don't know who has added each thing, right? This is unusual. Usually we like to commit our names to things, but you don't have to here. We only know that they are hoped for opportunities and programs. Perhaps the person who added them wants to be part of leading this new project, or perhaps leading it isn't a skill they have or isn't something they have capacity for, but they wish that they could show up and learn or show up and participate. So what do we do with each of these wishes? Well, they're available all the time for the whole community to see. Anyone who wants to be part of leading a new opportunity does add their name to the note. Anyone simply wishing to participate can add a star just as a way to gauge community-wide interest. And when 3 people have added their names as leaders, the note comes off the bulletin board and the planning begins. No one is doing this thing alone, but there is abundance in opportunity for you all to shape this community in ways that would nourish you most deeply. And here's the thing, we have already started projects this way, right? Some of you might be thinking, there was no bulletin board, but I kind of did something like that. When our ongoing gardening project began, it was because several members with interest, experience, and an eye for the truth that uncared garden beds make our church look less alive, gathered to launch it and explore how to make it sustainable. The care for our garden beds will go on for years. This spring, Diana and Brad began standing out in front of our church on Wednesdays to express their urgency about how we respond to our federal government's actions. And that project has grown. More people have joined, and it has become a community gathering, no longer a project of our church. Some of these "I wish someone would" projects will be short-lived, and others might be carried forth for years and become new beloved traditions. So you got a note card this morning, and hopefully if you needed one, you also took a pen. And here is an invitation. You're not limited to this one note card. If you have more ideas, you can take more note cards later from the back. But I invite you to spend some time with that invitation. I wish someone would. And here's the thing, don't box yourself in. It doesn't matter if you showed up here for the first time today or you have been here your whole life. If you have something that you're like, I am looking for this from spiritual community, go ahead and write it down. You don't need to want to lead it. You don't need to know how to make it happen. Later today, we'll tack these to our bulletin board in the back. And then people can begin to add their names when they feel ready to add their leadership to it. I'll keep looking for that online option. So as soon as I find something, we'll transfer this to an online bulletin board. And then if you are one of those people who has ideas hit you at 10:30 at night when you should be sleeping, and you're like, I have a really good idea, everyone should know about it right now, you can go add that to the board, and you won't disrupt anyone else. But you won't have to think about it all night long, and you won't forget it. So I am going to invite you to spend just a few minutes doing some thinking and some writing. You can toss those on notes and hang on to your cards so we can tack them to the board later and we don't lose them in the midst of things. I'll offer the reframe again. We are specifically looking, and it is good to wish for things in our wider community, and it is good to wish for things that we might be able to participate in. But we are looking at things that can be owned by our church and launched specifically in our congregation for our congregation, right? They might also include invitations to the wider community. An example is OWL, right? We run our Whole Lives sexuality education curricula for our congregation, and we invite folks in the wider community to participate. So we're just getting started. We're going to keep noodling out some ideas. You are invited to share these I wish someone woulds at the board in the back at the end of this service. And I can't wait to see what else is going on.